Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today.
The residential school system was designed to take Indigenous children and give them the skills and abilities they would need to fit into the society as it moved forward. So,
I think that was the policy. You think that was the intention?
That is Dr. Alan Lagamodiere, the new Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations Minister for Brian Pallister's government in the province of Manitoba. And that's the person who Indigenous people have to work with in the hopes of reconciliation. How the hell is reconciliation supposed to start when the dude can't even admit to there being fault in the first place? Now, I have plenty of additional rant going, but first, let's see the actual response to this statement. This statement of his was actually so offensive that the leader of the opposition in Manitoba, Wab Kinew, who himself is an Indigenous man, had this to say.
I am an honorary witness for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I listen to the stories of the survivors.
yes.
And I cannot accept you saying what you just said about residential schools. It was the express intent of residential schools to kill the Indian in the child. It is not cultural relativism. It is not revisionist history for us to say that that was wrong. Any right-minded person at the time should have known that it was wrong. Many did know and speak up against it. And if you are to take your job that you've been appointed to by Mr. Pallister seriously, starting today, you have to change that thing.
I look forward to working with you in the future as the leader of the opposition.
We'll give you a chance, but you can't be out here defending residential schools if you want to work with Indigenous communities. Killing the Indian in the child was wrong. That's what they talked about at the time when they were started, when they were run. We all know that that was wrong. So you have to move past that.
So shout out to him for speaking truth to power. But oh my God! Look, residential schools was about, trying to help little Indian kids become part of functioning society. Dude, it's imperialism and colonialism. And you're the Indigenous Reconciliation and Indigenous Relations Minister. You should know this stuff. How do you not know this? Like this talking point about, well, it was best of intentions, like Aaron O'Toole said it. There have been a couple other terrible people who have said it over the past few months as more and more bodies and unmarked graves continue to pile up. And they keep saying, well, look, like there was good done there, or, it was with best intentions. Yeah, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Still doesn't make it the road to hell. Still doesn't take away from the fact that we committed genocide our Indigenous population. I remind people that John A. Macdonald had this to say in 1883, writing to the House of Commons about Indigenous people and the residential school system. When the school is on the reserve, the child lives with its parents, who are savages. He is surrounded by savages, and though he may learn to read and write, his habits and training and mode of thought are Indian. He is simply a savage who can read and write. It has been strongly pressed on myself, as the head of the department, that Indian children should be withdrawn as much as possible from the parental influence, and the only way to do that would be to put them in central training industrial schools where they will acquire the habits and modes of thought of white men. Egerton Ryerson, the dude who designed the residential school system, had this to say. It is a fact established by numerous experiments that the North American Indian cannot be civilized or preserved in a state of civilization, including habits of industry and sobriety, except in connection with, if not by the influence of, not only religious instruction and sentiment, but of religious feelings. Indians should be schooled in separate denominational boarding, English only and agriculturally oriented industrial institutions. Here was a speech made by Sir Hector Louis Langevin, the man who is arguably the chief architect of the residential school system. He was Minister of Public Works at the time. He made the following speech in the House of Commons during a debate on the budget on May 22nd, 1883. The intention is to establish 3 Indian industrial schools in the Northwest. They have succeeded very well in the United States, and it is quite likely that they will succeed here as well. The fact is, if you wish to educate these children, you must separate them from their parents during the time they are being educated. If you leave them in the family, they may know how to read and write, but they still remain savages, whereas by separating them in the way proposed, they acquire the habits and tastes, it is to be hoped only the good tastes, of civilized people. The unholy trinity of white bastards who are the architects of the residential school system all have very similar things to say, which reeks of imperialism and genocide. It is, as Wabkinu rightfully pointed out, to kill the Indian, save the man. It is genocide. It is a cultural eradication by design and in its explicit purpose. And yet here we have a high-level minister who has the portfolio of Indigenous reconciliation, having the audacity to say on his first day on the job, well, it was really just about education. No, it wasn't. We have evidence of this, and the fact that he and so many others continue to remain ignorant of this is definitely what's bothering me today.